After Avengers Secret Wars, the multiverse saga will officially be complete. The MCU will be reset and a new saga will begin. This saga will very likely be the Mutant Saga. Now, we do have confirmation that an X-Men film will be one of the first films in this post-Secret Wars era, and it is going to be directed by the same cat that directed Thunderbolts. So that's really exciting and really promising. Now, if they're doing a mutant saga, then the X-Men and the mutants in general, of course, will be the main focus of that overarching story, which, makes a guy wonder, well, what about the Avengers? For so long, the entire MCU has revolved around the Avengers. Every big culmination film of this franchise is labeled with that Avengers moniker, despite many of the heroes in those Avengers films not even being official Avengers. Now, if you had asked me a few years back, I would have guessed that Secret Wars might not even have that Avengers label, and instead it would just be called Marvel's Secret Wars. But no, they're keeping the brand alive, and I get it. It's a brand everyone knows. It's been very successful, despite the MCU's, more recent lacklusters. Do you guys know what a lackluster is? It's like a blockbuster, except you get it. But we may see that finally change with the Mutant Saga and with the X-Men replacing the Avengers as the MCU's new focus. But I want to be clear, I don't think we're going to be seeing the next Avengers level film after Avengers Secret Wars, whatever that movie may be. Say it's, I don't know, Siege or Annihilation. I don't think that movie, whatever it's called, will be called X-Men Annihilation or X-Men Siege or X-Men whatever. And I also don't think it will be called Avengers Siege or Avengers Annihilation. I do think that they will finally move on to what I've been suggesting for a while and just call it Marvel's Annihilation or Marvel's Siege or Marvel's what the fuck ever. And I think that, well, yes, the X-Men and the mutants will be a big focus of the Mutant Saga, and Apocalypse, the X-Men's and the mutants' greatest foe, will probably be waiting in the wings of this saga for a big Thanos, Doctor Doom-esque culmination movie where he fights all the heroes. I don't think that means that they are going to abandon the Avengers altogether. They're not going to abandon the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and all the other teams and heroes that aren't X-Men or aren't mutants. And I think the X-Men films themselves, much like how the Iron Man films or the Captain America films or the Spider-Man films, they were called Iron Man, Spider-Man, Captain America. I think the X-Men films will, of course, have X-Men in the title, but they'll still be those types of solo contained movies, not these giant world ending movies. And with that being the case, I think that means that they won't then turn around and call the big culmination movie X-Men, what the hell ever. I think that, yes, there will be X-Men films, there will be Fantastic Four films, there will be Avengers films that are hopefully, I hate to say lower level, but more intimate and less into the world style Avengers films, which is really what we should have got in Phase 4, like a back to basics Avengers 1 style Avengers film for the end of Phase 4. Have a lot of the Thunderbolts characters, and you bring in Ant-Man and She-Hulk and Kate Bishop and Spider-Man, of course, and really set up this multiverse saga. But they didn't do that. It's really stupid that they didn't do that, but I digress. Anyway, I do think that we, of course, are still going to get Avengers movies, but I don't think they'll be the phase cappers and the culmination events that they once were. What I think we're going to see is Marvel's going to break the mold a little bit and do things a little bit differently and kind of shift away from that, oh, phase, that's a saga, phase, that's a saga. I think with them now having so many different characters and so many different teams and so many different stories in one universe come the end of Secret Wars, they're going to have to approach it differently. So I think we could have X-Men adjacent films, X-Men films and X-Men adjacent films that, they feel connected. And then maybe you can have like Spider-Man and like some other Avengers adjacent characters, and they have some individual films that kind of lead to a culmination of sorts, but a smaller culmination film that is still an Avengers film, but it's on the same level as like a bigger X-Men film. And then as those all grow toward the top of the tree, creating like a pyramid of sorts, then we get that big culmination film, maybe every 10 years or something. And that is when all of them come together to, like, I don't know, fight Apocalypse, maybe, since it is the Mutant Saga. And of course, we also need to bring in characters like our questioner asked about Midnight Suns, which could include Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Blade. I really hope to see like that area of the MCU finally explored Ideally, Kevin Feige will like bring together a team of people who like serve directly under him as shepherds of each wing of this new MCU, and they can develop essentially their own little pockets of this interconnected universe, certain groupings of films that tell smaller interconnected stories that eventually all come to a head at the end of the saga. And to tie it back to Midnight Suns, for example, you could have a Blade movie, a Moon Knight season 2, a Ghost Rider movie, maybe throw in, I don't know, Daredevil and Punisher, throw in Born Again, and then that could all build to a Midnight Suns culmination movie. And that would be on the same level as an X-Men movie and an Avengers movie. And they would all come together for the big end of phase movie. I also think that Deadpool and Wolverine are going to keep doing their own thing elsewhere in the MCU, like in the comedic R-rated corner of the MCU. Maybe do something like X-Force, I think would be fun. But it's really important that if they're going to do all of this, it's important that each film be approachable and not have people feeling like they have to watch every single movie and every single show that Marvel puts out. And we can't have Kevin Feige getting stretched too thin again. That's why I said that I hope he puts together a team that kind of oversees each corner of the MCU, and then Feige can be kind of like, God, and oversee the whole thing on a macro level that, eventually leads to that next in-game or Doomsday or Secret Wars level event that brings the entire universe together in like 2037 or something. But honestly, I think come that point, Feige will have moved up to president of Walt Disney Studios, and he'll be overseeing all of Disney's movie studios like Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar, all of them. But yeah, to wrap up the answer to your question, I do think that X-Men are going to be the primary focus of the Mutant Saga. And I think that, of course, we're still going to get Avengers films and Spider-Man films and Fantastic Four films. But maybe with it being the Mutant Saga, the same way the Infinity Stones popped up here and there and the multiverse popped up here and there in these sagas films, perhaps mutants will pop up here and there, or the world's response to mutants, and that'll be an underlying theme in all of the films, keeping them all tightly connected. All right, thank you so much for the question. Next up, hey everybody, Colton here, and this is the mailbag style show where I take your questions about Marvel, Star Wars, DC, movies and streaming in general. Whatever you want to ask, send it in to the email address askcoltonnow@gmail.com, link in the description below. And hey, maybe you'll see your question featured right here on the show.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.